fine.
Yeah, I'm Negmeldin Alsheikh, Associate Professor at the College of Education, and Bernadette is a PhD candidate in the Language and Literacy program, and we are presenting about the visual library as multimodal and multi-literacy site for learning, and this is one of the papers that Bernadette is initiated, and it is a work in flux. And one of the things that we are thinking about is the literacy and multimodality, and the look between the traditional library and the modern library, and how it's like in our new mode of presenting information. The library are not that lucrative in terms of are compatible with the postmodern era. And the first thing that we have here, this is the look of maybe you can share your thought about this. A classic library where I started like 30, 40 years ago, and this is how it looks like. And the modern library where things with the advance of technology, things are drastically changed in terms of postmodern thinking and postmodern to incorporate all things. One of the things that we are dealing with in terms of literacy is multimodal literacy, because today we are not thinking about literacy as before, especially the ideas of new learning groups and the MLS, new literacy studies. The impact exists of how we look at literacy. So many texts are multimodal, meaning is communicated through different modes, different scope of patterns of meaning that are visual, audio, gestural, tactile, and spatial. And there is still, most libraries are lagging behind. And in this study, Bernadette looked at a modern library with an art of concrete. It is trying to make things concrete for children and to entice them with different types of multimodal text. So picture books, textbook, graphic novels, comics, posters, all of these are part of, some of them are part of this library. And then you look at the digital multimodal text like film, media, animation, because now literacy we are looking at the text not as a text in the tradition and a mono text, a pretty text that we just glean from. So it's like shows like this, like this conference, e-poster, digital story, web pages. And there is also live multimodal text where I and my other colleague is involving in a paper about cosplay. And it is part of a concrete way of looking at literacy in terms of dance, performing, oral story, musical. So literacy now encompassing more of more comprehensible, more multimodal, and more multifaceted. Next slide, please. And we use the idea of heterotopia, which is Michel Foucault, talk about a new global digital era was dawning, transforming our experience of space and time. And I'm now, seeing Paul, seeing Berna. It is, even people from other places. This is true of today, type of literacy. And Foucault talk about this problem of the human site or living space is not simply that of knowing whether there will be enough space for many in the world. The problem that is certainly quite important, but also that of knowing what relation of propinquity, what type of storage, circulation, marking, classification of human environment should be adopted in a given situation in order to achieve a given end, or epoch is one in which space takes for us the form of relation among sites. And this conference is a big example of that. So it is not, nowadays, you cannot thinking about spaces other than thinking about the relation between spaces and sites. And, and this is a very advanced of post-structuralist philosophical language, like Foucault. Literacy today is presented represented in advanced and sophisticated way, and so the form of reading, writing, all types of literacy, we use in literacy representation and speaking and all of that. The new literacy paves the way for that, as I say, multi-modality and multi-literacy, which become a big thing. The forging of new ways of recording, storing, and presenting information practically. And so, like some libraries still deal with the classic form of library as we see it. Resonate with our time. Libraries around the world are urged to cope with this. One of the ideas that, like also part of this paper is the affordance theory. Affordance as an opportunity of action offered by the real world. And this is presented by James Gibson, if you are familiar with the affordance theory. Object can be perceived differently by different actors, like a rock, a book, a website. So the complementary of the human and the environment, and this is one of the things that we may consider digital affordances gain meaning through social learning. And this is how we situate our study. And now, like I yield the talk, like to the future Dr. Bernadette, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Negmeldin. Thank you. So what is the topic about? What is the research question? It's to explore parents and library personnel about what attracts children to stay in this library for hours. They literally stay for 4 hours, from 3 to 4 hours. So we've conducted this semi-structured interview with 8 parents and 2 library personnel to get their views about what attracts children to this library. Do you get to see the whole screen, or? All right.
Yes, we can see it, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Negmeldin. So the first result that the people kept saying, or the parents kept saying, they kept saying words such as different, architecture, space, design. All these different keywords falls under the spatial multimodality as described by the New London group. One of the parents said it is different. The word different kept repeated so many times because they seem to accept the idea of interactive learning, and they gave the children some freedom of movement. Freedom of movement is a spatial multimodality. So that's the first thing that we need to learn about the modern library, that kids, they need space to move around the library. The second thing, when you probe for more details about what exactly in the library do they enjoy most, they said that they enjoy the swinging ropes as well as the stop frame animation. When you go there, the picture is there, the stop frame animation. It's a technique in creating filmmaking strategy. Somebody said that he cannot hear me well. You cannot hear me well?
We can hear you fine.
Right.
Very
Thank
well.
you. Okay. I'm glad. I thought something was wrong from my side. So what is that stop frame animation? The kids love it most. As you can see the picture, it's the most crowded station. It's a technique in making movies. There are objects where students or children can physically manipulate it or change the position in small increments. And then there is the button where they can capture the image, and then they can add text, whatever, probably dialogue or a text, or they can create their own story. So what do we see here? We see here that the child wants to move from the position of a consumer to the position of a producer. And they also want to reveal part of their identity. They want to show you their side of the story. So we put it under the theme of multimodality and production. The next thing, what do kids like about the library? They said that they like the rainforest simulation. So what is the rainforest simulation? It's that small area in the library that is quite different than the other. When you go there, you get to hear the sound of the nature, the sound of birds, the rain, the animals. It's like a very secluded area in the library, and it's only this area where you get to hear this kind of nature sound. It falls under the category of audio multimodality. And there, the child can immerse himself in a book, and all these books that you get to see in that station is under the theme of forest, climate, weather, and animals, and rainforest. So it is grouped on according to that theme. And the child or the student can wrap himself up in that wooden house, and they got just like as if to pretend that this is the feeling that they are in a rainforest, exactly as if they are in a rainforest. They get to hear everything and they get to read about it. It is extremely beautiful. And here I want to show you something. When we speak about multimodality, we mean different things. Multimodality is,
just letting you know. Okay.
Rafi, please 1 minute. Okay. Multimodality is, I want to show you something nice here. What is multimodality? It's about adding one extra mode of knowing. Like for instance, what I added here, I added while I'm talking, you can read what I'm talking, what I'm speaking of. This is an example of a mode that I can integrate in classrooms, in a library, anywhere. Like you get to see pictures, you get to read text, and you can get to listen to me in addition to reading what I'm saying. So this is an example of a multimodality. So you get to know what we mean here. Moving on to the next slide. Visual multimodality. I do remember one of the colleagues here in the ALLT, she spoke about the different types of learners, and she spoke about visual learners. Here is also an example of a visual multimodality, but it is quite transformed. For instance, there is that van in the top right-hand corner. It looks like a normal van, safari van, just like as regular as a safari van. You would even question, why is it here? What's the purpose? But when you get inside that van, you get to see a screen, and they show you the desert and the inhabitants of the desert. It is extremely amazing because it is not a normal van. They can hop on and they can hop off, but of course they can also see the screen. They can get to know about the culture, the country's culture. They get to see anything that the host want to offer or want to show. When we're speaking in a science class about butterflies or snakes or lizards, sometimes when you just get to listen to it or to read a text, it is not enough. But when they get to see real life preserved butterflies, this adds an extra layer of interest. There's also snakes. I was very surprised to see preserved snakes here. So this is an example of visual multimodality that New London Group have talked about. There is the gestural multimodality. What is that? This is a very interactive bubble or cloud-shaped thing, and it conveys and reflects the choice of body movement. When I spoke with one of the library personnel, they said that it's especially for kids with special needs or those with determined needs, special needs kids. They can move their body, which falls under the gestural multimodality. When they move their body or when they move or when they dance, whatever they do, whatever sort of movement, it reflects on the bubble or the cloud shape. I would like to say here one of the parents said, school libraries, when we asked them about what's the difference between a school library, her kid's school library and this library, she said, school libraries are just books, no activities. But this one is different. It is transformational. It has colors. It is vibrant and modern. We love the design and the arrangement. My child move, read, and play all at once. I really love that code, so wanted to include it here. We've come to the end of our presentation, and thank you very much. If you want to add anything, Dr. Negmeldin, please feel free.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was very impressive. I was really impressed, especially with the audio modality here when we were speaking, and I could see the thing being written down at the end. I thought that was amazing. a very different type of library for sure, a virtual library of yours. Thank you so much for this presentation. I'm sure we'll have comments and some questions after the end of this presentation.